Now at 10.
As protests continue outside the 4th Precinct tonight, the tone has changed quite a bit from just 24 hours ago.
The city leaders and a Minnesota congressman joined protesters. Tonight, the concern over outside agitators accused of having a violent agenda.
We will not tolerate violent actions by anyone that will put our public at risk.
And a look into the Black Lives Matter movement as a community rallies around police officers. Well, this live look in Minneapolis shows the stark contrast in mood at the demonstration against police. Last night, protesters engaged in violent confrontations with officers. Tonight, a much different scene.
Bundled up protesters gathered in a circle, chanting and dancing and saying they want justice for Jamar Clark. They are calling for authorities to release the tapes of Clark's deadly officer-involved shooting. Their protest has now garnered national attention, and that was punctuated tonight with a visit from Minnesota Congressman Keith Ellison.
His son was at last night's protest, seen in a standoff with an officer pointing a non-lethal gun in his direction. Also in attendance tonight, 2 Minneapolis City Council members. Jay Olstead is live now with the latest from North Minneapolis. Jay?
And guys, Mayor Betsy Hodges also was here trying to talk to protesters. We'll get into that in just a moment, but as you might be able to see it here behind me tonight, things are much calmer than they were last night when protesters clashed with police. As the sun went down outside the 4th Precinct, a calm moved through near the corner of Plymouth and Morgan that was non-existent just 24 hours earlier.
The positive changes that you want, you're getting them.
Conversation replaced confrontation.
What do we want? Justice!
The line between police and protesters, though, was still evident.
How do we begin to build a relationship? Because that's ultimately what we want.
Jamar Clark! Jamar Clark!
But anger and frustration remained.
Thank you for stopping to see my family.
Congressman Keith Ellison joined protesters tonight, demanding investigators release video of the incident last weekend where police shot and killed Jamar Clark. He also asked for calm.
And I want to make sure that everybody expresses themselves, but that people's emotions don't boil over.
Ellison showed his support for the protesters and his son, who was pictured on Twitter protesting last night.
It was emotionally unsettling to see the photo.
All this as Mayor Hodges arrived at the 4th Precinct tonight to talk to the protesters, but was booed as she left the area. A calm night, yes, but still unsettled.
Jamar Clark! Jamar Clark!
And late tonight, Black Lives Matter Minneapolis claimed that, in their words, an anonymously credible source told them that Clark was in the process of suing the 4th Precinct before he died over some sort of confrontation with police. They are now demanding more information about that incident from police as well. Guys.
All right, thank you, Jay. NAACP and Black Lives Matter leaders criticized police today. They claim officers used excessive force last night on a crowd where learning may not have been local, John Croman is live with details on the so-called outside agitators. John?
Well, you remember the Occupy Wall Street, Occupy Minnesota movements. That was the first time we saw some of those Guy Fawkes anonymous masks. Now just about any mask will do when it comes to people who want to instigate some action without showing their faces.
What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now!
There are those who've come to the 4th Precinct to make a statement about what they view as an unjust system. Others are here drawn by the chance to fight the entire system.
We believe we were dealing with anarchists based on the flag that we saw. We believe people from outside of our community are coming in to perpetrate violence.
Chief Harto wasn't ready to name a particular group, but the covered faces and masks are among the hallmarks of a tactic known as Black Bloc, which has been employed by anarchist rioters around the nation for the past 2 decades.
Because there's a movement, because there's a crowd, some people have used this as an opportunity not to seek justice for Jamar, but I really believe that they're using this as an opportunity to express frustrations.
At times, protesters can be seen policing each other, trying to push their own members away from confrontations. But others appear to thrive on conflict, and that's a pattern that was seen in the Ferguson riots, according to veteran KSDK reporter Casey Nolan in St. Louis.
I can remember one specific instance, a late night, the protest kind of broke up.
most people were going home, and we saw a group of folks with matching T-shirts roll in saying, "Where's the action?" And they had just arrived from Chicago, and they wanted to get in on the action. You had the police, and you had the people that didn't agree with the police on much of anything else, saying, both groups saying, outside entities were making the situation worse.
Now, we've asked some of these people who are masked here tonight if they're from out of town, if they're local, and some just won't answer. Others claim they are local, so it's really difficult to tell. But once again, this movement, this Jamar Clark protest movement here, is not really like an army, like with a military centralized command. It's very loose, it's grassroots, and people drift in and out. This action kind of ebbs and flows, and so it's really hard to control and predict things. Back to you.
All right, thank you, John. Well, in what can be tense situations like that, and especially with the advent of social media, facts and fiction can become hard to discern. Rena Sargentopoulos continues our team coverage with how sometimes it's hard to discern fact from fiction.
Well, Julie, it's a tough situation. Protesters claiming that police are using excessive force, and then police claiming that some of those protesters are violent. It's a he said, she said situation that all started, of course, with the death of Jamar Clark.
Everybody get your hand up. Chemical irritants, rocks, marking rounds in concrete. All of it is flown through the air at the 4th Precinct, but who is provoking whom? It depends on where you get your information. This is streaming video provided by an organization called Unicorn Riot.
They're shooting unloading rubber bullets on 14-year-olds on the north side of Minneapolis.
The Service Employees International Union and Neighborhoods Organizing for Change both released statements today condemning the Minneapolis police, saying officers used excessive force on peaceful protesters. Today, Chief Harteau gave the other side.
Most people were peaceful. We had upwards of 400 people at a given time. But some were violent, and those that were threw bottles, hundreds of rocks.
The chief showed chunks of concrete hurled at officers, pieces broken off a retaining wall at the 4th Precinct. Our crews did catch that destruction on camera, and several people throwing rocks.
Late last night, after many protesters had already left, there were 3 Molotov cocktails thrown at officers.
But according to a release by Black Lives Matter, it was the police who were the aggressors. They claim a woman was punched in the face by an officer in this video posted on Facebook. Black Lives Matter says officers pointed what they call potentially lethal weapons in the face of peaceful protesters. This picture posted by Congressman Keith Ellison of his own son.
It looks like a rifle. It looks like a very dangerous weapon. But the reality of it is it's a non-lethal marking round.
He said, she said, a battle of words to try and win the war of perception. Rena Sargentopoulos, KARE 11 News.
Well, you've heard a lot about the Black Lives Matter movement over this past year. Minnesota is just one of 26 chapters nationwide.
Their most recent action, of course, is the Justice for Jamar campaign. And tonight, Jana Shortle sat down with the group's leaders in a one-on-one interview.
Black Lives Matter is unlike the movements before it because it isn't led, it can't be led, its members say, by just one person.
It's a movement, it's a decentralized movement, a leaderful movement that's working to liberate black folks in all realms of oppression.
Now, not having that one figure to be led by or to hold the group accountable, that's a source of discomfort for a lot of people outside the movement. But there's a reason Black Lives Matter purposefully chose to be led by committee in each of its 26 U.S. chapters.
I think it's uncomfortable because we live in a hierarchical society. All of our institutional structures embrace that structure, and part of this movement is actively challenging those structures.
It was a movement created just 2 years ago. Well, it began as a hashtag, and then it swelled into those chapters, taking up civil rights causes, oftentimes after major incidents between police and black men. The Minneapolis chapter is governed mostly by 8 people. These are 3 of them, and they are very aware. Many of you might be upset by their occupation, Precinct 4, and their numerous highway shutdowns. That, they tell me, is precisely the point.
It's easier just to be confused or to be angry at like these small little things instead of just saying, you know what, like I actually need to face this head on and I do have a role.
2 different times, especially Wednesday night, violence has come though. But Black Lives Matter says that's not them, that's not their work.
That's another group. One thing we are all on the same page about is that we are absolutely dedicated to nonviolent direct action.
Black Lives Matter has no intention to stop its actions in Minneapolis tonight or any night in the near future. Not until the night comes, I'm told, when they and them become us and we.
When those people all step up, every single one of them, all of the people, you know, the dude who tried to run me over on the highway on 94 just the other night, like when he decides to get out of his car and like hold hands with me instead, that's when the work's over.
Jenna Shortle, KARE 11 News.
Well, there's also growing support tonight for all of the Minneapolis police officers keeping watch over the 4th Precinct. A local police wives group called Backing the Blue Line is making sure that officers are taken care of. It launched a fundraiser asking for donations to buy food, water, and hand warmers for officers. They've raised about $6,100 of their $7,000 goal.
There's so many different variables every day. No 2 days are the same. So it was important to us to show our support as an organization, but as a community as a whole too.
Backing the Blue Line is working with the 4th Precinct to deliver their donations to the officers. And tomorrow, a North Minneapolis restaurant called Avenue Eatery will deliver sweet potato pies to both officers and protesters.
Let's take another live look at the scene right now outside the 4th Precinct, where protesters are chanting, singing, even dancing in the street. You can follow the latest developments on KARE11.com and, of course, on Sunrise, starting at 4:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. Still ahead here at 10, an eye-opening KARE 11 investigation for parents.
It's not uncommon to see toddlers and infants.
Tonight, we uncover just how prevalent child porn trafficking is in Minnesota.
The arrest on child pornography charges of a person of interest in Jacob Wetterling's disappearance raises questions about how predatory online behavior can go unnoticed for so long. A KARE 11 investigation finds, despite law enforcement's best efforts, the victimization of children, some just months old, is taking place every day in homes and on computers, from Minnesota's biggest towns to its smallest.
KARE 11's AJ Legault has never-before-seen information on just how widespread child pornography is in Minnesota.
Keystrokes, clicks, downloads, uploads, chat rooms, file sharing sites, social media. The internet is a big place.
Sort of the wild, wild west.
Bill Wiltsey, an 18-year veteran cop, is now the executive VP of the Florida-based nonprofit Child Rescue Coalition. While we all know the World Wide Web has a dark side, Wiltsey says what most of us don't know is the true extent with which children are debased, defiled, and sexually exploited online here in Minnesota.
Most people don't, and they don't know really how close they are to this.
While the Wetterling case changed how many Minnesota parents parent, what we're about to show you may prove just as eye-opening. This interactive Google Earth image is in fact a roadmap to those here in Minnesota enjoying the victimization, even rape, of children. Every one of these red dots represents an IP address for a computer in our state known to be trading in pornographic images of children just within the last 365 days.
It's not uncommon to see toddlers and infants.
Some of the dots in urban areas represent multiple computers. The Child Rescue Coalition maintains the software behind this map. It was originally developed by law enforcement and is able to track the IP addresses of computers tied to child pornography. For example, in tiny Annandale, where Wetterling suspect Danny Heinrich was living, there are 3 IP addresses known to be trafficking in child exploitation videos and images this past year.
You're actually tracking, often in real time, people who are dealing in child pornography.
That is exactly what we do, and we do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
That information is then shared with law enforcement, such as the Minnesota Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, where it's been used to make numerous arrests, including that of Rexley Furman of Federal Dam, a 2-time sex offender convicted just last month of producing homemade graphic sex videos with 4- and 5-year-old girls. You may now be asking yourself the same question we had.
If the police know where the IP address is, how does someone not get arrested? How does someone slide under the radar for years?
I can tell you the volume of information that we know about is very extensive.
The answer, unfortunately, takes us back to the map. It's not so much someone sliding under the radar. There's simply too many targets on the radar. Too many to arrest. So police are forced to focus resources on the worst of the worst. In the last year, there are 1,962 known IP addresses in Minnesota trafficking in child abuse imagery. Nationwide, the number jumps to 135,000.
In many or even most jurisdictions, there aren't enough jail beds if you were to arrest everyone to house them.
It's that big.
It's that big a problem, yes.
And it's not just an American problem. I want to show you some real-time data captured on a single day last week. Again, each of these dots blotting out a map of the world represents an IP address trafficking in images of molested kids.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's a scary picture.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, AJ.
It really is. Just
thank you.
Eye-opening.
It is. Thank you. Let's head outside now to Belinda. We had really gusty winds, even some snow here today. Belle?
We sure did, Julie. In fact, we're sitting at 32 degrees. What a difference a day makes. And of course, a lot of folks woke up to snow this morning. Today, the winds are gusty and the wind chill, well, it's been sitting in the teens all day. Right now, it feels like 19, a chilly 4 degrees, Bemidji 11 degrees in Alexandria. So November decided to return to Minnesota after, of course, a long time. In fact, our first below average day this month. It took 19 days to get there, but we had it today. The snow is still falling, but it is very light up to our north, but we did have about an inch on the ground in many locations. All eyes off to the west now. This is a system that's going to slide through Iowa tomorrow, but the northern fringe of this system is going to be affecting southern Minnesota. Now tonight, if we do not drop below 30 degrees before midnight, we will actually break a record that was set back in 1922, and tomorrow when we do, it will actually be the latest below 30-degree temperature we have had in the fall season. And so it looks as though we're going to do that because we're sitting at 32 now, and it doesn't look as though we'll drop below 30 before midnight. But after midnight, we will. In fact, we'll start tomorrow morning out at 24. The winds will be gusty all night, but then tomorrow we'll see some sunshine. Those winds will be lighter. The clouds roll in, and we do expect a high tomorrow of 35 degrees. We topped out officially at 37 today. The average is 39, and we're heading into the lower 30s and mid-30s for the entire weekend. When it comes to the cloud cover overnight, of course, it has cleared out, and that will allow that temperature to dip to 24. We'll have some sunshine early tomorrow, but then watch what happens. Here come the clouds into the Twin Cities, and here comes the snow just butting right up to the Twin Cities. Our airflow will be dry enough that it looks like it'll just cut off that snow pretty distinctly just to our south. It'll be just quite a line there to our south. And when it's all said and done, this darker blue south of I-90 is 6 inches of snow by Saturday morning. And you can see we could get up to an inch in southern Scott County, southern Dakota County. That's as close as it will get to the Twin Cities. And that again is going to happen tomorrow afternoon through tomorrow night. Here's your forecast for the next 7 days. Tomorrow, 35, clouds increasing, snow to the south. The weekend, 30 and 36 for daytime highs, starting out at 20 and 18. Of course, the bank will be busy with the Gophers and the Vikings. Here are kickoff temperatures. We expect 15 degrees for the wind chill during that Gopher game and around 25 as the sun sets an hour after kickoff on Sunday afternoon. And then next week, huge week as we head toward Thanksgiving. Temperatures actually warm, and right now rain does push in Wednesday night. And for now, it looks like it could be a rainy Thanksgiving here in the Twin Cities. We'll have to watch that closely, and we'll keep updating you on that. We'll toss it back to you guys.
All right. Thanks, Belle. Sports is next in another edition of Two in the Box.
And the Wild on the road in Boston tonight. We'll have the highlights just ahead.
KARE 11 Sports from the Mayo Clinic Sports Medicine Sports Desk.
Bummer in Boston. Wild battle, but are doubled up by the Bruins, and the loss comes with a price too. Wild getting an early hole in this one. They cut the lead to 3-2 with this goal that looks like it's from Ryan Suter, but it's actually Jordan Schrader. Story of the game, though, is Louis Eriksson. He's the Wild killer tonight, lighting him up for a hat trick. Then late in the game, in the waning moments, that unfortunate play I was telling you about, Jason Zucker slashed from behind on the leg. Zucker had to be helped off the ice. No word yet on the extent of his injury. As we've been doing for the last few weeks now, Here now another installment of Two in the Box, where Dave Schwartz pairs up with a couple members of the Wild to see just how well they know each other. Tonight, the defensemen get their turn.
Jared Spurgeon. First of all, how well do you guys know each other? You guys been playing together a while?
I like to think we know each other pretty well.
I'd say the same, but a little nervous right now. I might falter under the pressure. Who knows?
Wow. Marco Scandella was once suspended 15 games for elbowing a guy in juniors. True or false?
True.
No question about that. You just know it.
That's true.
Okay, well, first of all, we don't even know if it was an elbow. It was kind of like, we don't know.
Yeah, it was a big hit, I know.
Scored his first NHL goal against Dominik Hasek.
False.
You sure?
Yeah.
Absolutely false.
Yeah.
True or false?
It's false. It's an easy one, though. He set me up on my first goal.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. I didn't know. So who was it against?
Columbus?
Yep. Columbus.
Mason?
Mason.
Power play, 5-hole.
I didn't even tell me. You know what happened.
Yeah. I don't get many assists.
Yeah.
Speaks 3 different languages. True or false?
That's true.
It's true.
French, English, Italian.
Pretty easy one.
Can you say that in French?
Do I want to say that in French?
No. Can you say it in French?
It's an English show, though, right? Not putting me on the spot.
And finally, get ready for some much better TV access of your Minnesota Twins. The Major League Baseball owner meeting's wrapping up today in Dallas. And one of the new wrinkles they're rolling out in 2016, an agreement with Fox that will allow fans to watch live in-market streaming on any mobile device, saying they want to make certain their content is available on as many platforms as possible. Could be a game changer. That's sports. KARE 11 News back after this.
Well, one final live look tonight at the camp outside of the Minneapolis Police 4th Precinct. The demonstration still peaceful as they call for investigators to release the tapes in the officer-involved deadly shooting of Jamar Clark.
And the crowd received a visit tonight from 3 Minneapolis City Council members and Congressman Keith Ellison. They all asked for non-violent protests and said they support the release of the tapes as well. The national president of the NAACP is expected here tomorrow. We will have more on his visit on KARE 11 Sunrise starting at 4:30 a.m. And Belinda joins us now with one last look at the forecast. I did see snow today, right here in the city.
Yeah, it was falling here in the city and all across. It'll be 25 in the morning at the bus stop, and tomorrow afternoon about 35 degrees. Snow to the south tomorrow night.
Thanks for watching.
See you tomorrow.